Test one. And we're live! At least I think we're live. Hello! Welcome everybody to Self-Care Sunday! I'm excited. This is going to be fun. We have... sorry about that echo. We have a killer show for you today. I'm Zach Valenti, broadcasting from Bushwick in Brooklyn with my cat Tiffany, who, really my co-host, slacking on her duties. Maybe she is in the back. No. Tiffy? I hear her meowing from the other room. Maybe she'll join us. Anyway, I'm here today with two amazing guests. I have Jason Merrin, a childhood friend of mine who is a filmmaker, an animator, a writer, man of many hats. And we're going to talk to him about a new animated dinosaur project that he's working on with his favorite comedian, Kyle Kinane, which I'm like super excited about. So we'll go to that tape in a minute. Then we'll come back and I got Christopher Castiglione, the dean of 1 Month and maybe one of the most prolifically creative and sort of like diversely talented dudes that I spend time with these days, and I would love to get into a conversation on doing all the things. So stay tuned for that. Some announcements before we jump in. First, I know you've been waiting. Drum roll. Tiffy, this is why you need to be here. What's the show without Tiffy's drum roll? But drum roll, please. We have a winner for the Write a Script in November, Rise Scrivember audio drama contest. Frameshift by Shannon Smith. Congratulations, Shannon Smith. I am so excited to produce Frameshift, an original audio drama. It's going to be good. Stay tuned for more. I will talk in a future week about the future of Write a Script in November, Rise Scrivember. It's definitely happening again this year, and over the next several months, I will be producing Frameshift by Shannon Smith. If you aren't, next thing, already in the community forum that I'm piloting, that is sort of like a weekly check-in joint for anybody that is, part of this corner of the internet, and other people are welcome if you're there and you're enjoying it. That's community.focused.af. Once more, that is community.focused.af. Lastly, if you would like to nominate a guest, check the description below. It's right there. There's a link. Go do it. Nominate a guest. So without further ado, let me bring you my dear friend. Whoa, that's trippy. Uh-oh. Go to the other thing. Congratulations, Shannon Smith. My friend Jason.
I have a nausea reflex from anxiety, which is really, really bad and forces me into self-care because I literally can't do anything unless I de-stress, or else I'm too nauseous to stand up or think or talk. So yeah, it can be bad.
Welcome, Jason, to Self-Care Sunday.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you give the folks just a really brief bio?
I am a writer, director, and sometimes animator. I grew up in New York City. Zach and I are old friends. I think the oldest of friends. And
as old as it can go.
Our mothers met, I think, in pregnancy class or something, right?
I think they were in a maternity group together, and I think you were literally the first human child that I was interacting with.
Yeah, something like that. And, as fate would have it. So the two of us, we used to make, short movies together when we were kids.
And like plays and stuff, and like a museum once or twice.
Yeah. We put together a couple of museums and charged admission to your parents. Um, and then we fell out of touch for a few years, and we both kind of went into film stuff, and then reconnected a couple of years later.
Realized we were both going to film school.
Yeah, and have been close as we ever were, I think, ever since.
Yeah,
which is great for me. Professionally, I've done a feature film called Sleepwalkers. I've directed a few music videos for a couple for the band AJR and one for Andy Grammer. I sold a cartoon series to Nickelodeon that unfortunately never made it to air, but it was still a super cool experience. And now I'm about to, or at this point, I will have launched the Kickstarter for my new animated series, Action Dinosaur.
that's awesome. Tell us a little bit about Action Dinosaur, and how do you come up with and sell a show? Like how do you do animated TV? I feel like there's so many moving parts that it can seem like a magic feat by the time it's all done on TV.
What do you want me to answer first? Tell me more about Action Dinosaur, or tell me more about animation?
Let's start with Action Dinosaur. What is it? How'd you come up with it? And why are you so excited about it? And then we'll get into more about TV.
Sure. Action Dinosaur I was actually in a rut, writing wise, where I was writing a bunch of stuff that I was not happy with. And just like everything was so difficult because everything had to be perfect. Like it was going to be, I hadn't written anything in a long time. So every word I had to write had all this pressure on it. So to kind of break me out of that, at the suggestion of my wife, Rachel, and I think one of your suggestions, it was one of those like 750 words things that I think you told me about. I started doing writing prompts, and every day I was just writing goofy stuff, the first thing that came into my head. And I wound up, as one of those prompts, just writing this really over-the-top nonsense action comedy about a time-traveling action hero dinosaur from the prehistoric 80s and his best friend who's a homicidal ninja. And their adventures taking like these dumb, super banal problems and applying the 80s over-the-top violence, energy, mentality to like even the stupidest of ideas. So well, in the pilot, so our Kickstarter is we're asking for the money to finish the pilot because we've already done everything but. We cast it with one of my favorite stand-up comedians, Kyle Kinane, who does an amazing job as the voice of Action Dinosaur. Mm-hmm. We have character designs, we storyboarded it, we cut together an animatic, music, sound effects, everything's done except for like the actual physical animation.
Okay.
So we're asking for the money to finish it. If we get that, we will, our stretch goals are just more episodes. So like the more money we get, the more episodes we're going to make. And we have 6 or 7 ideas like planned. But as an example, in the pilot, Action Dinosaur has to summon his action team, which includes like Action Unicorn, Action Potato Farmer, just like action heroes from all of time and space. He has to summon them together to help him because he's run out of milk and cows haven't been invented yet because he lives in prehistoric times. So obviously this is a colossal disaster that can't be averted by him just using his time machine to go to somewhere with milk. He's got to summon everybody to come to him to invent cows. So...
Of course, like you do as an Action Dinosaur.
What else would you do?
So talk to me about just like the process of realizing, because it's such like film and TV is such a collaborative medium, animation, like
Sure.
maybe even more so. How do you realize ideas in this medium? And maybe why did you choose to take Action Dinosaur the indie Kickstarter route instead of trying to sell a show that I guess maybe it's, the conflict of not being able to get it to air.
So I had a wonderful experience with Nickelodeon. I love them to death, and I still have a good relationship with the guys over there. And every now and then I do knock on their door and pitch something. But there is, the flip side when you're working with a network and a big studio and with somebody else's money and it's somebody else's investment. Then there is a certain amount that you do of control that you do give up. So so the show I sold to Nickelodeon was an idea I'd had years ago, and I'd built this Bible and written these different episode scripts. And when I went to them, it became a whole new thing, and we had to throw everything out the window and start over from scratch, which I was happy to do. And it was a really fun process. But after 2 years of working on it with them, building it up from scratch, I got the word that it wasn't going to go, which is fine. That's how these things go. If they pick up, people make 1 million shows every year. 10 get picked up, and one of those actually makes it to air. And I knew all of this like all along. I knew my odds were still slim of actually seeing my show on television, and that was fine. But when I wrote Action Dinosaur, I got very excited about it, and that doesn't happen to me very often about stuff that I write. I'm very critical of my own work, but this was just something that I wrote literally just to amuse myself. So seeing it on the page, it just made me laugh, and that made me really want to see it. And when you work with somebody else's money, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to see it. So I decided to take my savings and just start doing it. Rachel, my wife, who's also a producer on Action Dinosaur and one of the greatest producers I've ever worked with, and probably the greatest producer I've ever worked with, she was just like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Who is your top pick for playing Action Dinosaur? I was like, well, when I close my eyes, like the voice I hear is Kyle Kinane, who he's not like a big household name. He's big in the stand-up comedy world. He's like a comedian's comedian. And I'm a huge stand-up comedy fan. He's one of my favorite stand-up comedians of all time. He's hilarious, and he has such a great voice. He's well known as like the voice of Comedy Central. So I was like, so if you're watching it and you hear like The Daily Show is coming up next, that's him. So I like, when I close my eyes, that's like the voice I hear for Action Dinosaur. She's like, fine. And she sent an email to his manager like a little while later. Yeah. Just like, yeah, just got him on board. She's like, no, like send him the script and just like worked out the details. A few months later, I flew out to LA and just like recorded with him. One of my comedy heroes of all time. So that was great. And
that all started with just a cold email, like a good question from Rachel, and just, hey, manager, and how did she find that guy?
I don't know. I could try to get her in here to answer that question.
I feel like IMDb Pro probably has information like that. And
IMDb Pro definitely has information like that.
Okay.
I think in the cases of stand-up comedians and a few other people, like there's booking information on their websites.
Right.
She might have been able to find it. Like I know for musicians, I've spoken to musicians whose work I've wanted to use in movies before, or not them necessarily, but like who to contact at the record labels often on their website.
Right.
So
okay, cool.
So I think she got it through his website. I think through the booking people, I think she got a hold of him. But yeah, he was great. He was like, he liked the script. He was willing to do it for, for what we could afford. He was willing to work with our budget, which was not huge. We're doing this independently, but he was so great to work with. And then from that point on, we went to DeviantArt. Actually, we started scouring DeviantArt for cartoon art that we thought would be a good fit, and we found a few different people. And we reached out to the one who we thought, like, he'd done a bunch of fan art for cartoon characters, comic book characters, in this really goofy, colorful, stylized manner that we thought would work really well for the show. And we sent him an email and got him on board. It's just, our musician came to us through a friend recommendation. Our background artist we found through Upwork, which is a freelancer website. But everybody we've found has just been so amazing and just brought their A game, and has been really, really not just super nice to work with, but really cool about understanding that this is an independent passion project and working within what we can afford, but still delivering a very high quality, like professional looking product.
That's amazing. So I guess what is your biggest hope for Action Dinosaur, and yeah, where do you dream that it might go?
So the big dream is I'd obviously love to see this on television as a full series. I'm not gonna lie, like I as much as I was driven to do this independently and just get the ball rolling and not wait for somebody else to come and give me the chance to do this, take matters into my own hands. I also, like, if someone came to me tomorrow on Cartoon Network was like, look, like we love it. We love the idea. Here's what you need to make the show. I wouldn't say no to that. I just want to make the show as best as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the dream would be much like Adventure. This is kind of the way Adventure Time and Regular Show and a bunch of other shows get made now is, they got a following online on YouTube or some other website and got the attention of some network. And at that point, people had, the show, what the show was more or less established. What people liked was more or less established. And then they were able to create like a television version of that. But you didn't have to like throw everything out and start from square one because there was an audience that they wanted to bring to the table. So my dream would be we make Action Dinosaur our way. If we raise enough money for like all our stretch goals, make like a season of it for the internet, exactly how we want to do it. And then somebody gets excited about it from, I don't know, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Netflix, and comes to us and says like, we'd like to do a full 30-minute per episode or 11-minute episode
Series.
Like, series order. Right. That would be like the very lofty dream. But if we get to make even one episode, like that's a dream come true for me on its own. Just realizing one professionally animated Action Dinosaur episode and getting to share that with people, that's enough of a dream for me.
That's incredible. Two more questions. One, what advice, and both tactical but also like maybe spiritual, would you have for people thinking about diving into crowdfunding as a way to realize their creative ideas?
Good question. I didn't see the crowdfunding hook coming at the end. This is our second Kickstarter campaign. We did one for Sleepwalkers, the feature film that we did. There's a poster for it back there.
And when you say we, you mean you and your producing partner and your spouse?
Yeah, I mean the team.
Right,
so
your roommates also. Yeah, you just have like an amazing
situation. I'm lucky enough that I get to work with my friends a lot. So my wife is an amazing producer, and we did Sleepwalkers together. But also, one of our crew members on Sleepwalkers lives with us now in this house in LA. Another one of our roommates is a producer on Action Dinosaur, and I get to work with some of my best friends who happen to be great collaborators. Zach, you and I have worked together on some of my favorite stuff that I've done that unfortunately hasn't seen the light of day yet, but maybe we can change that.
One day.
Yeah. So when I say we, it's really because a crowdfunding campaign or any project, it's always weird to say my. I don't mean specifically mine and Rachel's. I mean, there's so many people working on it. It just feels weird to take complete ownership. Right. And this is my second crowdfunding campaign. This is the second time we've done it. But Sleepwalkers was a different experience because we were coming to the table with no experience. We didn't really know what we were doing, and we didn't really do as much prep work as we should have. We learned a lot from that Kickstarter to prepare for this one. Going into it now, everything you can do. Well, the Kickstarter launches tomorrow, so like this advice might be premature. Like maybe we fall flat on our face right away. I don't know.
But tomorrow is today because we're broadcasting.
Right, tomorrow is today. Right,
you're going live today. What have you done differently that is at least helping you sleep better at night?
Yeah, I'm a lot more confident about this Kickstarter. I should probably start with that. I feel better about this one than I ever did about the previous one because we started really early. For the other Kickstarter, we launched first, and then we said, how can we get eyes on this? And that was a mistake. For this Kickstarter, we started thinking of, you have to really consider it like a marketing challenge. you're selling a product. You're pre-selling a product, but you're selling a product. You're trying to get people to buy this idea or this thing that you're doing. So just going out and asking for money, which is what we did the first time, is not really the way to do it. You want to start advertising early and build hype and excitement for it. So what we did differently this time is about 1.5 years ago, we launched a Twitter account for Action Dinosaur, the character, not like the concept, not the show, like the character himself. And he's been tweeting bad jokes in all caps for a year now. He's done almost 1,000 jokes. And he's got something close to 3,000 followers who don't know yet that he's going to be a cartoon show. By the time you're watching this, I guess they'll have found out. But he's got a built-in fan base now of people who are really into the character and his sense of humor.
So you just created a Twitter account out of nowhere and just were tweeting really ridiculous jokes. Like, they're amazing and also like super out there.
Thank you.
And build up a fan base for this Twitter bot, like it not a bot, but like it feels like this like Twitter being with no context, like nobody except for the people involved in the project and your friends, like known that this is going to be a show.
So the only clue that we have is in the Twitter bio, and this has been up there for like 1.5 years. The Twitter bio, it says, I'm a time traveling action hero T-Rex from the prehistoric 80s. People tell me I sound like Kyle Kinane. That's the only clue we have that he's a cartoon character. And people have like sent us DMs and been like, are you Kyle Kinane? And we write back in all caps, no, I am Action Dinosaur, a time-traveling dinosaur from the prehistoric 80s. I'm like, okay, but who are you really? I'm like, nope, I'm really a dinosaur. So it's been really fun to write in the character's voice. And
like people have started to like suspect that Kyle is involved with this because
some people have suspected, yeah.
Because he has retweeted some things, or
he's retweeted, liked, and responded to a few of our tweets. Those tend to do better than the other ones because he's got his own
flames, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very hopeful that those guys are gonna become fans of the cartoon. That the fans of the Twitter account are gonna become fans of the cartoon. That fans of Kyle's will find us and come to us and be fans of the cartoon.
It is unassailable hipster cred to be like, I liked it back when it was a Twitter thing.
Right. I feel kind of bad. It's like the stealth marketing campaign we haven't told anybody, but hopefully it'll be really fun for them when they find out. I hope it'll be a good surprise, not a bad surprise. I hope they don't feel lied to. It's been so much fun to do. It's kind of just become its own thing. And we also we've been reaching out to comedy blogs and news sites and telling them that Kyle's involved in this and telling them about our plans and giving them as much information as we can, sending out press kits and trying to line up as much coverage as we can before launching instead of after, which was the big mistake we did last time. But I would say, sorry, that was so rambly and went in so many different directions. But advice for someone doing a Kickstarter project, I would find your audience ahead of time, however you can, as creatively as you can. Try to carve out a niche fan base.
And do something within the means you have to start engaging that audience. Like,
yes,
anybody with an internet connection can create a Twitter account and like put in the work to be funny on Twitter.
100%. Yeah.
In a way that not everybody can pay for animation out like from the word go. Right.
Yeah. We were lucky enough to have enough banked from other projects that we could jump into, voice recording and storyboards and all that stuff before we went to Kickstarter. So now that we're coming to Kickstarter, we have a bunch of stuff we can show. That's always helpful. People like to see art, but at the very least, like anything you can do to find your audience beforehand, because those guys are going to be the people who tell the world about you. And they're just going to be vital, and you want to find them before not after you come out with your product.
Very cool. Last question, because this is Self-Care Sunday, how do you intend to, or how have you in the past practiced any what you would consider a form of self-care while you're under what I imagine is a non-zero amount of real pressure to perform and make something work?
I throw up. No, Sorry, I'm joking. I mean, not intentionally, for sure. That would be horrible. No, I have a nausea reflex from anxiety, which is really, really bad and forces me into self-care because I literally can't do anything unless I de-stress, or else I'm too nauseous to stand up or think
Wow.
or talk. So yeah, it can be bad. So I like to have a nice cup of tea. I like to just like, yeah, it's not, I wouldn't call it any sort of formal meditation, but um, I've got kind of places I go to in my head. I like to imagine, I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this actually. I like to imagine like a stormy ocean, and then just like it slowly settles like a boat on the ocean.
Hmm.
It's like, I don't know, for some reason that really grounds me because God, it sounds so pretentious, but it grounds me because I kind of associate that stormy ocean as like my anxieties, and then picturing it physically settling kind of brings my emotions down to like a calm place also. I don't know. Um,
That's super cool. You just came up with that one day?
I don't remember when it happened. I've been doing it for years, but yeah, it's just it helped. I think it originally started as like a way I dealt with the nausea. Like it was supposed to, like, the stormy ocean was like my upset stomach, but it
Mhm.
kind of grew out to just be my go-to meditation self-care thing for all anxiety.
Mm.
Um, I also, I mean, I love watching cartoons when things kind of get to be too much and all that stuff. But at a certain point, you got to get back to work.
Right. Awesome. Where can people find out more about Action Dinosaur? And yeah, what should they know?
Thank you for asking. I will send you a link when it goes up. I don't know if that can be displayed anywhere. We won't have a Kickstarter link until, unfortunately, we actually press the launch button, which is in like 12 hours.
Right, which will be like right now or like a couple hours ago
Right,
by the
right.
time we go live. So yeah, I think it will be up on the screen right now.
But the other thing is, I encourage everybody to go and check out the Action Dinosaur Twitter account. It's
It's
at
amazing.
thank you. It's at Action Dinosaur, AKSHUN Dinosaur. Um, he's not great at spelling all the time.
Action.
So we'll be posting updates on the Kickstarter and how that's going, or rather, Action Dinosaur himself will be posting updates in his very distinct, all caps, punny kind of way. He'll be posting updates and links, and also just a few puns and jokes a day, of course.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, as always. Well, as always, to talk to you. I'm very excited to be on Self Care Sunday.
I was gonna say you'll be back.
I hope so. All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Awesome. So great to get to share Jason with you all, everyone. I'm so excited for Action Dinosaur. Definitely go check out that link down below, fun.af/Action Dinosaur. We'd love to touch on any of those things when we get to the Q&A. But first, Chris Casting, everybody.
Hey,
Everybody, Chris Casting.
what's going on? Good to see you, Zach.
Yeah, great to have you here. Thanks for meeting me a little bit deeper into Brooklyn.
Yeah, we
To
are.
hang out.
I saw a cemetery on the way here.
Yeah, there's
Beautiful.
one of the largest cemeteries, which is actually like 7 cemeteries like rolled into one, right in our this neighborhood, my neighborhood.
A lot of life.
Yeah, so we're here. Tiffany has joined us.
Mm-hmm.
Aw, she's so sweet. And it looks like the live chat is slightly out of
Sync.
frame. Let me just fix that really quick. But yeah, Castig, I'd love to get like a brief introduction. Just like, what do you when somebody says, "How do you spend your time?"
Oh wow. Okay.
What do you say?
How do I spend my time? I spend a lot of time reading books and hanging out with friends.
Uh-huh.
I'd say those are my priorities in life these days.
And that's amazing.
I mean, it's a Sunday after all right now, so
Right.
that's what's on my mind.
That's
We're
awesome.
hanging out. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
I got a coffee. So.
So Chris and I know each other from working together at 1 Month.
Yes.
Where I feel like I learned basically most of what I do every weekend here is like something that I learned while working at this amazing education company, onemonth.com. Sort of like learn anything in a month, but like mostly coding.
Learn to code
some
in 30
business.
days.
Yeah.
And
Learn
we
to
have
code in 30 days.
Bitcoin courses and all
That's
this other
fucking awesome.
kind of courses and business. Yeah. 30
It's
days.
super fun. I've learned a ton. Definitely, definitely worthy of a visit. And maybe that's something I should do. Just like take a course.
Yeah, take a
like,
course. Yeah.
Huh.
It's great. Hang out with me more.
And like, yeah, share what I've been learning. That could be like a corner self-care Sunday.
Self-care Sunday. Let's learn together.
And I think it's like, it was working at 1 month and like specifically brainstorming with you where I feel like I started to come up with a lot of the like seeds that have germinated into experiments like this.
Yeah, Zach, could I plug you? Zach was wonderful to work with, obviously. And yeah, I think a lot of the studio came out of your Mad Max, I don't know, experiments. I don't even know if that's the right analogy, but like some kind of scientific experiments of just like
a bald cap and a doctor's
there you go.
apron.
There you go.
Somewhere.
Yeah, like some of the failed experiments. Not to say this is like a failed experiment,
Yeah.
but it didn't work for us, and
Right.
anymore. So we're like, yeah, please take it. Yeah, excellent. Now you have it here. Yeah.
So I think the thing that I was interested in having a conversation with you about today.
What's up?
You're somebody that I feel like I identify with to the extent of like you do a lot of different things, and you do them full on.
I do.
Like you make music.
I do.
You write.
Yeah.
Like 5 different kinds of writing, like blog posts, like fiction, like video scripts, like poetry, and like you kind of blog posts, like you name it. And then like you do improv, like you are a coder, like
Sure.
I guess like talk to me about like how did you sort of come of age as a jack of many trades?
Yeah. I have no, I just shot into the world with no strategy on this. It was more of just going from things that I find are interesting.
Right.
And then I do believe this, that if you follow things that are interesting, opportunities come, and you kind of leapfrog from thing to the other. So like, when I was a music major and just playing music, I didn't want to be a teacher. I didn't want to be I didn't know. I had no plan like with music of why I was a music major other than I really enjoyed it. And then from there, just all these other opportunities came. I learned how to make a website. I learned how to manage a band. We played like 100 shows in 2 years to go on tour, and you meet people. And I guess that's been like the progression of all these things. One thing just kind of opens up something else, and then I just kind of go there. Like the way I would always explain to my co-founder, Baton, who you worked with as well, at the company, I would tell him, because we were a startup, I would say, I feel like my rule is water always. Like if there's like, like the way if there's like a till, if there's like a crack, or like you go around, like I feel like I want to go where things where people aren't paying attention to something, or wherever there's like some room to kind of just naturally go. And I like to just kind of like fill those spaces and like learn new skills along the way. Yeah. So that's kind of been my MO, I guess.
So I guess I'm curious. I feel like as somebody who is personally like, constantly feeling pulled in many different directions in terms of my interests, and has like started to feel that pressure personally, and like, and more personally, like I think I've always gotten like interesting comments from people about just like focus, like dude, like what are you doing?
Yes.
And I wonder if you feel like you are judged. And if you feel attention in yourself, like independently or relatedly, and if so, how do you deal with either of those?
Man, it's like, yeah, definitely. I've gotten judged over the years of just, going from thing to thing. I mean, for example, like there was a year where you remember I was giving lectures about food nutrition, and I think I did 4 of them at like some pretty big conferences here in New York, like Vegetarian Food Festival and like these different nutrition. And I made videos online, and I have like one that has maybe 25,000 views. I mean, whatever. But like like I was starting to get some attention for this, but then there was this whole kind of backlash on some of my work on that, and people were like, "You're not a doctor. You're not." You've only been like reading this for like a few years. How do you? So I don't know. That's just one example of. I feel like there's always going to be both sides of it, and I think just staying true. I'm not a doctor, so like I just was authentic in that.
Chris Castig, not a
Not
doctor.
a doctor. Exactly, but I play one.
Bring in the lower thirds.
I don't even
lower
play
thirds.
one on YouTube. Yeah. But what I am good at, I think, is helping people understand. Like, I'm an educator, and I think I'm good at helping people understand complex things and break it down. And so I would always just say that. So I think like I've been trying to find my thread over, I guess, 15 years of my career now, and it's not. Yeah, there's gonna be naysayers and
To piggyback off of the thread.
Yeah.
One of the former. A mentor of mine and an amazing person, Susan Kitsch, talks about this idea of the red thread, which in German is the tie that binds. If you have like a kind of long, rambly story, somebody will say, "What's the red thread?"
Right.
It's like focus and sort of tell a narrative. Like looking back, I feel like I can always point at what my focus was.
Oh, what is it?
When in the moment, it's like really hard to articulate.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's like a combination, for me personally, a combination of communication, intimacy, like connection, and discovery, the sense of sort of discovery and invention. And I know it's like really wibbly and vague, but like there's like some themes that I can kind of point to.
Yeah.
And it's a little about me projecting a narrative onto it to make sense of it.
I think you have to do that. You're like your own brand manager.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of make the story. Oh.
That's our alarm to say that the video that I was playing earlier is done. That's funny.
We know that now.
Good thing. No, we would have been really late.
So yeah, I think that's what I mean. I think the things that you're throwing out there are a pretty good start. Do you ever feel like you have to sell yourself to like a job or a resume or this kind of thing? What does your Twitter bio say? Like what is your like?
I think it says it's kind of corny. I like it.
This is us.
Equals my brand.
Okay. That could be a thing.
It happened at a party once, and I was like, "You've won my Twitter bio." I was thinking about a new one, and somebody's like, "That's kind of corny." I like it. And I was like, from something I said, and I was like, "That's my new Twitter bio."
Lower third. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
What did I want to say? I guess what are you focused on now, and what would you say is something that where's an area that you're looking to take ground in around focus and around balance?
That's a really good question. So I really can relate to your dilemma of trying to focus. I feel like I've been doing that for 15 years where I can put a thread on my story. And it served me well, and at the same time, I think now I really am trying to focus. And I mean, I was a coder for 10 years, and I started teaching technology for about 5 or 6 now, and I think education has been a big part of that. So I'm trying to really focus on like what the one thing is, what part of education I'm going to move forward with in teaching. And there's a lot of important things out there. I don't know the answer right now, but I'm very interested in this idea of like unlearning and habits that we have, kind of the internal programming that's in our brains that we're born with, or that we get from culture, and all these decisions that we have to make these days, and trying to make better habits and that kind of thing. So it's just one thing. I'm trying to go deep on it, and I'm trying to find the thing that I can maybe spend a few years on and focus on a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, I'm curious about the sort of habit change sort of stuff. Like, how do you relate to habits? Does that relate at all to what you think of as self-care? What do you think of as self-care? I ask a lot of questions in a row, I realize. Feel free to answer whatever your interest sort of leans into.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think of myself more as like an academic. Like I feel like I have more questions at this point than answers, and I think the habit space, which is like where I've never really said that aloud like that way, is a lot of people that seem to have answers, and they're like, here's how to form 10 good habits in a day. And I mean, I've read The Power of Habit, and it's an amazing book, and there's some good stuff there. But yeah, I have questions, and I'm curious about how to like unlearn habits specifically.
Yeah. Have you heard of Alexander technique?
Yeah, I've done it. The thing with your body.
Yeah, where you unlearn, like where you hold tension.
Oh yeah.
It's like not like
Because you hold tension.
conducive. Everybody does.
Yeah, oh yeah, I do. My shoulders probably.
Yeah. Well, it's just like we do the wrong thing, and then it prevents our bodies from naturally like expanding into what is natural.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
It's a really crazy practice. Dude was like a singer, lost his voice, and kept losing his voice. He was a performer back in the 1800s, I think.
Oh.
And was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get 4 mirrors, sit in the middle of them, and just watch myself and see what am I doing wrong? Why do I keep losing my voice? And 8 years later, he was like, I think I learned something, and started teaching people.
Oh, that was Alexander?
Yeah.
Okay.
FM
He's like,
Alexander.
I have a technique.
Yeah. He's got a book called Use of the Self. It's phenomenally
Oh, cool.
interesting. It's like, it is, I think, what matters about meditation without ever using that word.
Okay.
Which is great, because I think that there's a commodification of things like yoga and meditation that have thrown the baby out for the bathwater.
Got it.
Like they're like bathwater, ooh, like yoga butts, ooh, you know.
Yoga butts?
Yeah, it's like become calisthenics, not like
like yoga butts.
self-discovery.
Like,
And
your
yeah,
butt
well,
look
it's
good. Okay.
it's about like the body and sort of like
Got it.
looking like an airbrushed picture rather than like intentionally causing union between your mind and your your body and your heart.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, and I think that's where the questions. I'm more of a person that has more questions, and I'm reading a lot and asking people questions. But I'll give you an example of what I'm thinking about with this like unlearning thing. And the specific thing I mentioned to you this week is this idea, the vegan friendly idea. May seem like they have nothing to do with each other.
Right.
This
is great.
What if I could bring it up? So I put together this 1-page proposal called Vegan Friendly. And the proposal it's a question. It starts with a question. It says, should there be a certification in American restaurants to just label vegan friendly options without animals in them? And then it goes on, it's just 1 page. It just goes on to state, and these are all facts, that it is healthier for you. I mean, processed meat causes cancer. The American Cancer Association points to it. I have all the things there. It costs our government a lot of money, and it's the number one contributor in cost to global warming, right? So there's these reasons. Look, I'm not saying anybody has to be vegan. I'm not vegan, but I recognize that having more options causes more power. And so in this state of unlearning, my proposal that I presented this week to at a meeting in City Council to the Brooklyn Borough President was just like, we need more options. And I'm exploring this idea of having more options on a menu as a simple way to maybe unlearn habits, because options are power, and if you only have 2 options, if there's only chicken and fish on a menu, you as a consumer have less power in the situation, and it causes you a lot of extra brain juice to have to like think or sacrifice, and nobody wants to do that. Like I'm not vegan. I don't want to be vegan because like I have to like think all the time and go to restaurants, and my friends might judge me and all stuff. Okay. But what if there was like always options? And I see this in Israel, and I see this in Berlin, and I see this in other places. So I'm interested in the way that just having more options may help us to kind of rethink the structure of the world, like in a way. Yeah.
Cool.
That's like one specific example of what I'm talking about.
It sounds like if you give people easy ways to see the world differently, behavior will naturally change.
Like that.
That's why we're here for Self-Care Sunday! I, like, many years ago was, like, figuring out mental health as I grew up with the, ADD diagnosis and sort of wanted something that was maybe, in addition to the medication that I was taking at the time, just that wasn't, like, legal speed.
Oh.
Like those side effects that came with those drugs that made my life to date possible at the time, and I wanted some different alternatives, and then discovering just how shut out I'd felt around the conversation around mental health, because I didn't want to be like perceived of as crazy, so like I wouldn't go get services when I needed them, and getting over that, and then sort of being on the other side and seeing how much of a crisis it is. Like, did you know that like suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death on campuses?
So for college students?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
2nd to accidental deaths, which are also largely associated with binge drinking and other things that have correlations to mental health, like problem, like maladaptive coping strategies.
It's the kind of thing that it's like if you don't have the problem, it's not a problem. It's like a privilege. Like we've talked about it before, but I haven't personally gone down that, so I have the privilege of not having to know about it until I 10
Right.
years later after college meet someone like you, and it's like, oh, so no, I didn't know that was the second largest, and that must kind of fit into your narrative. It's not in my narrative, but like,
Right.
how does it affect you, I guess, in your life?
Well, it's just one of those things that, like, when I was thinking years later, from creating Project Uplift, which was to sort of combat that and work on that, and it had sort of collected some dust, right?
Like after
'cause-
Project Uplift.
Well, it wasn't, because it's not after; it's still happening.
Oh,
but
got it,
while
got it.
I was, before I had an offer to go do a TED Talk, it was like, when was the last thing that I'd done for this? And then the TED Talk felt like a lot, and then that wound down. It was like, I don't really know what I'm doing with this anymore. And then another event happened. So it's like there's this yo-yo effect of when events happen, it comes back to life, and there keep being events
Yep.
because there's enough interest, and I do take enough actions that something will happen every year with it.
Yeah.
From like an ambitious, like, planning an event sort of mindset, but it's like, what am I doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, not an annual basis? And that's where the idea for this series and having a place to hold space for a conversation around stuff in a way where it's like, yeah, sometimes we fail, and you know what? We're still alive.
Yeah.
We're still alive. That was too quiet. We're not dead yet. Not dead yet.
You're not dead yet.
Right, and like, I don't know, I just feel like bringing a sense of humor to things, and bringing sort of a growth mindset to bear in things makes it less hard to talk about, more fun to talk about. And so I guess, how would you define self-care? Is it something that you feel you have a relationship with?
Yeah. It's something. Yeah, totally. Wow, self-care. I work out every day.
Dope.
I try to, at least. My minimum is doing like 20 to 30 minutes of running around the park.
And
That's
is
like my
it-
minimum.
Is it something you enjoy, or is it like a bitter pill that you take?
When you become convinced of something, when I can become convinced of something, it's like you argue less with it. So I've become convinced that it's best for humans to work out every day based on a lot of research that I read, or this book, How Not to Die. So it's like, when you're like in a state of arguing, like with your parents, or like, should I do this or should I, you have this dilemma, your brain juice is kind of like boiling, and you're like, I don't know what to do. But when you kind of like accept, like, the way that I accept it, like I should eat food every day, your body just craves it. And I think that, like, I also crave working out, so that now if I don't do it, because I'm on such a streak, it's been maybe like 2 years now or something, because I used to just do it like 2 or 3 times a week, but then I was like, so when I became convinced of it, it became easier, so I enjoy it. Yeah,
That's
I
great.
beat myself up if I don't do it. I'm kind of hard on myself, I'm not gonna lie. Like, if I don't do it, I'm like,
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
When you say you're hard on yourself, what does that look like for you? How does that play out? in a week?
I think I always have some anxiety,
Like tension.
Yeah.
I feel that more time than not, I would say.
but I've
When
come
I
to
meditate
terms.
every day, like it's not there, but like I don't meditate every day, and it's just
Okay,
like,
yeah.
like there was like periods of my life where I did that and that went away, but then something happened in my life and I had to deal with it, and then like I didn't make 40 minutes a day for like.
Is that where the anxiety comes from? Like when you skip a meditation?
I don't know. I think that it did back then when I had a habit and then I was losing it. But now it's just
Yeah.
like, no, there's just anxiety. And there's
Yeah.
like, like I don't think it's necessarily a problem to have anxiety. I think it's when it's not to say that anxiety can't be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there is like a diagnosis called anxiety for a reason.
Yeah, it probably depends, like,
I
how
just don't
much
know.
it keeps you toward doing the things that you want to do, or keeps you away
From
from
doing the thing, right.
Like, I feel like I have like a positive anxiety where, like, over time it pushes me towards things.
Right.
But if it was a debilitating, which is a same word, anxiety, but it could
Right.
also like keep you home and like not interacting or not working.
And that's what's tricky to me about anxiety.
Yeah.
And like, I think I've seen an analogy in politics where like I get really hooked by politics. Like, and like
news, politics?
Yeah, like I would get in conversations with people who voted for somebody when I voted for somebody else, and I like would get so emotional. It was just unproductive.
Oh yeah.
And like,
Oh yeah.
you know, I feel like I did more harm than good when I think about what I was angry at the other side for.
Got it.
I think I was guilty of what I was like so like blindingly mad about in terms of not listening at the end of the day. And so I think that I have similar like relationships to like aspects of my mental health where like there was an aspect of before I was working at 1 month, I had a therapist who was telling me that I should consider a full-time job.
Oh.
Because like that might actually really work for my like attentional style and
Did it work?
my lifestyle.
You got a
well,
full-time
I got
job.
a full-time job and it was amazing because
Oh,
it
good.
gave me structure
Oh, yeah,
and like
yeah.
collaborators and a social group and
Cool.
like you know, there's a lot about it that she like identified immediately. But at the time, because of like the decisions I'd made about myself, by identifying my personhood in my disorder, like in my diagnosis, to be like, I'm a person with ADD, I need to be an entrepreneur. And if I'm working for somebody, I'm failing. And if I'm working for anybody else, then I would be like a failure in my own eyes as a like successful person with ADD.
So that's what this is right now, this world that you've created?
Well, I think this world is very exploratory. I think I'm open to working for a company. I think my dream job would be to like have long-term contracts with brands that I love.
Great.
And serve like a sandwich video style role for companies in the sense of like you have something that I want to partner with you on.
Okay.
Let me in as an owner and I'll do my thing.
Is that a red thread or is that a narrative?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so.
I'm
right?
hearing that. I'm hearing that.
So I don't know, and like making a show like this has taught me so much about like what it takes to do something that you care about every week, which you have to do these days to like break through the noise.
Oh yeah.
And I think brands are too busy to do.
Yep.
And like
Takes a lot
I
of
don't
time.
know. I think like ultimately I would be happy to like fill out my taxes as the sham wow guy, provided that I'm doing my version of what that creep did for, you know, like sham wow. I'm like selling things.
Yeah.
Like I'd love to do that for like things that I love and actually use.
You want to be ShamWow for things that you love.
Well, like
Is
a
what you're
pitch
saying.
man for
Okay.
stuff that I actually discover and use on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that would be fun for me and like
Cool,
sort of
yeah.
bring a lot of things together and provide a lot of value to people. Like it's sort of like what you're saying of like you just focus on what you're interested in and then opportunities emerge. And I'm like, I think that that's an opportunity that has started to emerge or already exists in affiliate marketing. And like, I don't know, I'm like not committed to it, but it's like one way that I could see doing stuff for no money online.
Yeah.
Like how to make that lifestyle work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
And like just keep doing it.
I like that.
And ultimately, I'd love to be able to pull off a Y Combinator for the future Wolf 359s, and like invest in, you know.
Oh, like new podcasts.
Yeah,
sort of
basically, like people can apply and like we can greenlight ideas and like provide studio space and like whatever for people and
cool.
you know,
Yeah.
like invest in their IP.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
and-
I'm surprised
and
that doesn't
teams.
exist. Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that would be a lot of fun. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity.
I guess it's just a little hard to
It's
make
the future
money
of Pixar, I think.
with podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's maybe the only
Right.
side of it.
But it also doesn't cost much, so you know it's a low bet. And
Yeah.
it could be a good gap year program.
Cool. I like this.
Anyway, and I can
Love
run it
it.
out of an apartment. So anyway, so
Love it.
I feel like seeing you as a role model, like an adult who like has their shit together and also has a lot of varied interests and like seems to be able to be good at pretty much anything you put your attention on long enough. I'm like, huh. Are you stressed out all the time? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I can be. And like, I guess like, do you, as the habit change guy, like, is there anything I should look at unlearning sort of as we wind down?
I mean, yeah. For me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel free to answer with like maybe the best advice you've gotten. I don't know. I'm
The
just
best
curious.
advice on like
You've
focusing
gotten.
or
Yeah, I
something.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe if there's a story or no pressure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason I do a lot of things is because I'm interested in them, and you do the same thing. You have all these different projects you create.
It's a little compulsive.
It's a little compulsive. I mean, I've had a podcast, I have the YouTube channel, I have a company, I teach at Columbia. You know, all these different things.
And like not just like any podcast. Like you started Risk.
with like
That's true.
Kevin
Yeah.
Allison.
Yeah.
Like that's still one of the top charters. Like that's like an institution in the world of podcasting.
I guess then my only that's true. I guess my only like comment on all of that then
Yeah.
is all these things I just named. There was probably 30 things that I've done,
Right.
and 10 of them, took off or something.
Right.
So it's
But
like
that's still like
luck
kind of
a little
remarkable,
bit.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's just a little bit of like, there's this great. Is it Neil? What's the dude's name? He has the commencement speech, and he says there's you can make great art. You've seen this. I forget the guy's name, but the author Neil Gaiman, and he's basically like, and these are the hardest things like that I look for in people, and he really nails it. Just like somebody to show up on time, somebody that's easy to work with, and somebody that does good work. He's like, these are the 3 things: like show up on time, be easy to work with, and do good work. And he's like, and you only need to do 2 of them. Right, and people will want to work with you, and I've found that like so much in hiring, because I've done a lot of hiring, is that it's really hard to find somebody that's like going to show up on time or be good to work with. So I feel like if you can like do 2 of those things and do enough over time, the luck / effort is gonna propel you to like do something.
That's super actionable
is
advice.
to, like,
I love that.
find something amazing in life. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, we're gonna start to look to the questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
To see if anybody's got one. I know there was one. Speaking of meditation, any good tips on how to get started and really center yourself?
Cool. I meditate almost every day. I use the Calm app, or
you like
Headspace.
that?
I like Calm.
My future roommate works for them.
Oh, really?
He's one of their developers.
Oh, I didn't realize it
Yeah.
was a big company, even. Just one woman.
Yeah.
But yeah. I like that. What do you do? Do you have a practice? Do you have like
I am definitely more of a sort of meditative, I don't want to say tourist, but like I feel like I've sampled a lot of different techniques and sort of I'm still discovering what practice works for me.
Do it.
I know transcendental meditation and I really like that. I also just get a lot out of mindfulness of breathing and just slowing down. I also think Alexander technique is like maybe because I think I get into a mindset with meditation where it's like, oh, I'm doing it right now, or like, oh no, I'm not doing it right, no.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Alexander technique gets you out of your head, I think, and into your body.
How do you do that? Do you just get on the floor and like? What is that like?
It's more of just there's some formal practices you can do where you do a lie down with like books under your head and your legs up on a couch or something.
Something like that was my experience.
That's one, but then you can also do wall game. There's arm game. There's a lot of different things you can do, and then there's also like standing on the subway and noticing: are you shifting more weight to one side or the other? Or are you holding your shoulders up? Like it's just like it's all the time. It's not something that ever stops. It's more of a way you approach your life than
just a consciousness,
than like
awareness.
a checklist, right? Or like a process.
I dig that.
So yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Good one.
We'll do 2 more questions. Oh man. Shout out to all of you guys, by the way. Emmanuel Faltamo, great to have you back after a couple weeks. Casey Smith, awesome to see you here. Shelly C. Perrin. Actually T, so awesome. Oh, Emmanuel Faltamo with a question. If you're in a streak of working and really cranking out things and finishing things on time, but you don't like what you've made, how do you get out of that groove without the fear of losing that track?
Can we ask him a question? Like, what are you making?
Yeah. What are you making, Emmanuel?
What are you making?
That's a great question.
Huh.
I used to do call-ins. I need to bring that system
Oh
back.
yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could start answering it.
Yeah. I mean, how do you think about like cadence versus content?
I don't know, man. It just like depends on your goals. If you're super young, I would say just like make more things until you like don't. I don't know, man. I think at some point, if you're putting stuff out in the world, you're gonna get feedback and you're gonna learn if you're doing it. If you're doing it often, like the way you're doing this every week,
Right. I think, yeah, for me, it's like power through the garbage.
Yeah.
I think the best quote that I've ever read about this is the NPR radio guy, WBZ Chicago, I'm Ira Glass.
Oh yeah.
That motherfucker, he's got a great quote about there's a gap. Like you get into
Oh yeah,
the creative game.
He's these videos online. You can watch them, I think.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But then there's this gap. You get in the game because you have great taste.
Yeah.
And then your skill and taste don't line up. And so you got to work at it.
Yes.
And then you close the gap over time. We have another question from Kate Fairchild about advice for starting projects at the right time. How do you stop from holding on to it too long or diving in too early?
Nice. What do you think?
That's a great question. I have a terrible, terrible time holding on to things. I'm like a pack rat. Like I have videos that I started in college and haven't finished, like on my drive, because one day I'm gonna get to that. And now I don't have a copy of fucking Final Cut Pro 7, so like I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I gotta like find a converter or get an old license for that shit.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I always have annual goals.
Okay.
You know, and like this year I drew them out on page too. I even have like a goal setting workshop that I released on January 1st.
Oh, that's
for
amazing.
1 month. Yeah.
Is it still online?
Yeah, actually, I think I even have it. It's probably in the other room if I get it. But it's like there's this like thing of like things that I want to do, and I look at it a lot. It's just 2 pages, and I can like look at the drawing that I made. I'm not a great drawer, but enough that like a mind map, and I feel like it subconsciously is happening. You know, like in the back, like certain things that I want to write or certain little art projects I want to do. So yeah, I don't know. It helps me at least also say the things that I'm not gonna work on because I can like write them and cross them out. Like there was just like a few things where I'm like, let's not focus.
Like
you
what?
know.
Or is it hard for you to say no to things? Is there anything
It's
specific
hard,
that you gave up
yeah.
that you're like, oh, it hurts to give it up?
I mean, I was like really into writing scripts over the past few years as we made like a little web series and stuff. And I think that's part of like something that I don't know, not my focus right now. I think between my job at Columbia and the crypto thing, like as far as timing goes, like you also have to look. Like a lot of people are wanting to learn about decentralization and cryptocurrency and stuff. So I think it's also like listening to what other people want. Which if you're writing a novel or something like personal, there might not be like a right time. I'm not sure.
Right.
Although there's a really great Chuck Klosterman has this idea that if you're writing a novel or something and you try to like hook it onto some cultural event, so you can kind of you don't want to like change the integrity of what you're writing, but if there is some like, if he's basically saying like if you hook on to like 9/11, you're like bound to get some grounding from the fact that like we're always going to want to look at how people reacted in the face of 9/11, and you might look at Jonathan Safran Foer has Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which happens about the reaction to 9/11, and he talks. But basically, the idea is like if you find some cultural hook. Or it could be a song. He talks about how the Sopranos at the end. He's like that song at the end, the Journey song, like. He's like that will always be hooked to the Sopranos. So as far as timing in fiction goes, you just might want to try to like correlate to some event if that's important to you. You know what I mean? But I think for me, like the crypto learning thing right now is like clearly important. So it's like hard to ignore it and be like, I'm gonna come back to that.
Right.
Whereas some of the playwriting stuff, I'm like. I don't know. I'm just still like.
So last question.
Yeah.
I recently got into Rilke.
Oh yeah.
And there's the letter to the young poet, the first one. Rilke's a poet who got some fan mail, somebody asking for opinions on their poetry.
Yeah.
And was like, all right, since you asked for advice, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Stop asking for advice. Stop looking for validation. Look inside.
Yeah.
Figure out why you must write. And maybe you don't have to, and that's okay. If you must, just organize your life around it and like stay away from like really popular formats. Just like keep it simple.
Yeah.
And like if you're complaining that life doesn't offer you enough for your poetry, be ashamed for not being poet enough to like mine poetry out of whatever you've got.
Yeah.
Because you're a human and like life is poetry. It's I think beautiful. And so it's like
it's amazing.
That's where I hear you in the like. You want, like, especially if you're trying to be, like, a podcaster or a filmmaker and, like, you're somebody who can have many different interests and it's the craft that really matters. It's like, a useful way to hone the craft, to like build an audience while you're doing that, which will help you pay for your habit.
That's what it is. It's like the craft. I mean, look at Casey Neistat or what you're doing, or I had a podcast every week for 52 days, 52 weeks. So it's like doing it every week. You learn stuff every week, but it's also helpful to be conscious of your red line that we've talked about. Is that what you call it? Red line.
Red thread.
Red thread, and it's also conscious to be aware of like how you are carrying to your audience and how you're being received. Because if your goal is like a bigger, you want to reach an audience or you want to send a message, you have to kind of. If you get too romantic about either one, you're gonna fall on your face.
Yeah.
So I think that's like.
Well said. Awesome. Well, this has been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you
this
for
is
coming
fun.
on.
For sure.
Where should people check you out?
You can learn with me. My classes are at onemonth.com. And I also have a podcast. You can go to iTunes or Spotify and On Books, just On Books podcast.
Castig.org has a bunch of links of things that he's done. It's a really cool website. Lots to check out.
And I give out my email. It's just Chris at on-books.com. So
nice.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions for me, you just send them directly.
Sweet. He's a really great person to talk to if you're if you had a question we didn't get to. Yeah.
All right, this is really fun, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So as always, thank you all for joining. I love you guys. This is like one of my highlights of my week. It's super, super fun for me every week. I
give out dating advice at the end of this episode.
Oh,
something just came to mind.
Yeah.
Related to Letters of a Young Poet. So
dating advice.
I don't know how your audience is single or whatever, and this isn't about me, but this is about you. But related to that, so I randomly, this was not intentional, but you have to like put a certain amount of photos on a dating app, and so I underline my books all the time, and I have this one Letters to a Young Poet, and I underlined it with crayons, and I don't know, this is like what I did. So I took a photo of it, it was on my Instagram, and I happened to just put it on my Hinge or whatever. And let me tell you, like 90% of the people that comment to me will write about that. Totally unintentional.
Amazing.
But maybe my advice would be like, don't just take that. But Rilke, but if there's something that really relates to you, I just feel like if you take a book and like, I don't know, or
there's something
there
spiritual about books, I feel.
People really connect to it. And I think it gives you a sense of the type of things you're reading and a lot of good questions, and yeah, it's been pretty good.
I have an idea for like a video essay or a video poem about the importance of reading.
Oh, I love to read too, so I'm biased.
Well, and specifically because like I lost sight of the fact in my enthusiasm for new technology, like virtual reality, that we have virtual reality 1.0 in books.
Whoa.
You know, like when you read, you're like putting your mind like into a world and seeing the world differently through different eyes, and it's just like a little less enveloping.
I think that's accurate. Yeah, I think books are virtual reality. And especially this one. This is like
the Scott Pilgrim. It's great.
Just like drawings and amazingness. Yeah.
And you know, it's like it's one of those things where it's like, in my sort of lust for distraction, entertainment, I lose sight of the fact that there's something that if we leave, and it was recently in the New York Times, like a post-text expose, like what is society going to look like when it's all video and audio medium, and I think we'd leave something behind if we left our literacy behind, like our book literacy.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's an inevitable thing.
It is something that needs to be learned about and talked about more.
Well, I'm like, I think it's something that everybody deserves. It's like a delicious habit that people, I think, are losing patience over for.
But I didn't mean like even writing emails and texting. I've just seen the quality. It seems like there's somewhat of a divide between people that can like write coherent sentences and can't. And like to me, writing has to do with thinking. It's the thinking clearly.
Right.
And is that kind of where you're getting at with
That's
this?
exactly
like so it's like you deserve to have the ability to think clearly.
And I think that like entertainers will continue to dominate our political spheres if we can't sit down and read a book and like then talk about it in a way where we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
And that requires a degree of listening that I have been guilty of not offering. So that's something that I'm thinking about and like focused on how do I work on that and document my learning process on that in a way that is entertaining and maybe educational and doesn't like get me in a trap or be boring.
Cool.
Anyway, that's my finishing thoughts.
I like it.
Thank you for that dating advice. Shout out to all my patrons. You guys are amazing. You make experiments like Write a Script in November, Write a Script November possible. You do that by helping me pay for like sound effect licensing stuff and website hosting costs and emailing service fees, and stuff adds up. Domain names. I promise that I only spend my patron money on domain names directly related to things like this. Active projects, all that other stuff I have to work for. But yeah, I love you guys. I so appreciate your trust and your confidence and your investment in my creativity and this community. About this community, definitely, if you haven't yet, check out community.focused.af to join the Focused AF community. Between Sundays, it's a fun place to hang out. Much love. Until next week. Next week, I'm taking a break next week. I won't be here next week. I'll be back the week after. I might drop a video. We'll talk. Hit me up on Twitter if you have ideas for what I can do for next Sunday where I won't be going live. I love you guys. Mwah. Okay, there's a button now that I have to find. This is always a funny part. It's like, there's the button.
Goodbye.